All right.
Here, your record button.
Okay. All right. We're in business. So let's.
Oh,
Okay.
you're good.
I'm good.
No feedback.
No feedback.
See if
Okay.
you can hear him.
Okay. So let's do a test, Steve.
Yes, 1, 2, sibilance.
All right. Here we go. All right. All right. All right. Welcome to Life and Laughs in the Jungle Room, our first live show for 2022. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys. It has been a few weeks. The last time we were here, it was before the holidays, and it's taken us a little bit to get back here. And I am joined with our special guests. Uh-oh.
Have we
That was
lost
good.
audio?
Oh,
See if you can click on
okay.
it.
Hold on.
Can you click on it? No.
Are we
No,
lost?
no.
Change it.
Hold on. Sorry, guys.
You're early anyway.
I'm early. Okay, hold on. I have the wrong name on the screen.
I can be him.
We're gonna start over.
I do
Let's
impressions.
start over. We're
It's not a
early.
problem.
It's not even 7:00. So the edited version is gonna be so much better.
Yeah.
All right, let's start this over. Let's pretend we didn't do this. We got 2 minutes anyway. So let's just say hi to some of the people that are in right now. Kelsey is with us. Hi, Kelsey. Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy, hi. Good to see you. Miss Jan, Jennifer, and Todd. Thank you for the cap. Thank you. Nice cap. My son got this cap for me, so I'm wearing it for him. And then right at 7, I'll go into my intro again and pretend that I didn't say anything, and I'll introduce this young man next to me. I don't know how you guys are seeing him, but he's next to me. Jamie looks like she's in the witness protection program. Yeah, that's cute. I look good, Joe. I like my blonde hair. Okay. All right. It is 7:00. We're ready to go. Welcome to our first live show for 2022, Life and Laughs in the Jungle Room. I am Jaime K, and with me is the fantastic musician and Elvis fan, Steve. I can't pronounce your last name.
That would be Vaughn.
Vaughn, Steve Vaughn.
Yes. That would be the
Yes.
one.
Steve Vaughn.
Hello. How are you?
Yes. And Steve, you and we talked, was it like almost a year ago?
Yeah.
It was during COVID. We were both in quarantine then too.
That was a time.
Yes. And now we're both in quarantine. We both have COVID.
Yeah.
And we thought that we would, in our quarantine state, do a live show and talk about all things Elvis. But first, let's talk a little bit about you. Introduce our listeners and viewers. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, basically, I've been a musician for many years, since I was about 13 years old. I was born in the States, raised in England, born in Virginia, so a Southern boy at heart, which probably brought the Elvis thing into me at a really, really young age, because I was about 8 when Elvis died, and I was a little conscious of who he was and all that kind of thing. But certainly down south in Virginia, that was, it was a big deal, obviously, when he passed. So it kind of hit me kind of young. And then I was there until I was 13. We moved to England. I was there right through my 20s, and now living on Cape Cod, and been with many bands, done recorded albums, done all sorts of stuff like that. I'm being very succinct for time, and now back on the Cape, and playing regular gigs every weekend, doing all the best covers of everything from the decades to current, and just been doing that. And the Elvis connection for me was, you know, having hit me so early at that age. He was the inspiration for wanting to be a musician. He was the initial inspiration for it. And me with my little 45 RPMs on my little teeny record player as a little kid. And the first performance I ever did actually was in my Virginia school when I was 8, imitating Elvis, doing Jailhouse Rock, and wearing a little miniature jumpsuit. And my stepdad recorded himself doing the acoustic guitar for me. And I sang to that acoustic guitar and did a little hip swiveling thing or whatever. And I was sold by that point. And then right after that, the Kurt Russell film came out, the Elvis bio.
Yeah.
And that was the one that got me. I watched that and I was like, whoa, what is this mythical figure that I only kind of knew a little bit about? And then it was just, that was it. I needed to know everything there was to know. And then shortly after that was the This Is Elvis in 1981, the bio film, the documentary film. And I mean, that was the one that sort of showed me what an amazing story the whole thing is. What just the sort of ultimate tragedy, you know, up and comer, rising to the top, tragic ending kind of thing. And it just held so much weight for me. It was theatrical. It was big. It was everything. And that was my catalyst into music. And then of course after that, everything else. As I was growing up, music was all around me, but Elvis was always like in the soul. That was always like the first thing. And I followed that. I've always amateurishly imitated him, done the you know, did the whole thing, even contemplated a career doing that. I was so obsessed between the ages of like 13 and 18. I think I was the only teenager that was just constantly talking about Elvis.
Yeah, that was me too. Yeah.
So that was what I like. Yes, what I liked is that we were right around that same age, and we discovered him long after the fact. And it's interesting how he hit us both, you know, at a young age, long after. I mean, what was your initial?
So for me, I was thinking about that when you were talking. You know, my mom was the Elvis fan, and I remember growing up with his music, and he was always around. However, the catalyst for me was the book Elvis and Me by Priscilla. So I was way too young to read that book. I was in the 4th grade, and it was my mom's book, and I was reading it when she wasn't around, and I just became obsessed with their love story and everything about Elvis, and ultimately like his relationships, because the music had always been there. I'd always had the music, I always had the movies, but it was that book Elvis and Me was the catalyst. And you know, you talked about This Is Elvis. That is one of the movies that I remember that really, I saw him more than just a musician or an actor. That's when I really wanted to like know everything about him. And I was obsessed. And I was that weird kid in school. And a lot of my school chums from elementary and middle school, they still talk about the fact that, you know, while, you know, I was the one talking about something about Elvis or some movie. And when Elvis and Me, the movie came out, I remember not going to a slumber party because Elvis and Me was coming out on TV, and it was a mini series, and there was something going on in school, and I didn't go that night for one of the nights because the movie was out. And I remember getting teased relentlessly because she was like, oh yeah, Jaime had to like stay home to watch Elvis and, you know, the dead guy. And, you know, I got teased mercilessly for that.
Are you watching an Engelbert movie? What is that?
Yeah, I know. And I remember, you know, like I taped Elvis and Me on, you know, I taped everything, anything that had to do with Elvis. You know, I taped it when, you know, we got a VCR, and every weekend we would rent movies, and I wanted to rent This Is Elvis like every single weekend. Like I was just, I could not get enough of knowing who he was as a person.
That was the thing for me too. It was the person. It's like you can't get close enough to it. It's like he's such a myth. And particularly the fact that, and one of the biggest, probably one of the most clever moves that Parker ever did, I think, was keeping Elvis from interviews, too many interviews and things like that, because it created
A
A
mystique.
huge mystique, right? I mean, it's just like, you're not going to turn on an old Dick Cavett show and Elvis is the guest.
Right.
You don't, there's none of that. There's just, and I think on one hand, it's really sad because we never really got to see him really properly interviewed, like being, really human. They were all kind of staged, the Madison Square Garden interview or, things like that, but they were generally kind of succinct and, whatever, but we never got like a good interview.
Sit down, in-depth interview.
Yeah.
But that was very smart because
It was.
it allowed Elvis fans to create an image of who they wanted him to be. And I think he was very aware of that. And I think he was also very, he really cared about what his fans thought of him and that he kept that image, which, I was just talking to a friend today who actually knew Elvis pretty well. And she was saying, one of the biggest disappointments is how after he died, a lot of the people that knew him would go on interviews and talk about some of the embarrassing things of his life that nobody would want to be made public. Right. And I think a lot about that, if something was to happen to me, and my friends and family only chose to talk about, my most embarrassing times or my flaws. I mean, I don't have that many, let's be real, but a few I do.
Yeah, I got a couple,
but we do want to have like that image that we don't want portrayed to the world. We don't want everyone to know our hardest times and our most embarrassing and humiliating moments that were private. Exactly.
That's why we keep ourselves, we keep our show, we keep our, whatever. But I got to say, I was thinking about this too, is that Elvis, and they mentioned this on that recent documentary on HBO, was it The Treat?
The Searcher?
The Searcher, rather, yeah. How there, I think Tom Petty said it maybe, or Springsteen, that there was no roadmap. Nobody had made a roadmap for a rock star yet. There was no rock star. They didn't exist. So this guy was just, navigating these waters. Suddenly, salaciously, everybody wants to know everything about it. Blah, blah, blah. And he's just this, he's just this country boy that loved, rhythm and blues and country and mixed it all up, made his own style and did something with it, and the love of music and everything else. And before you know it, everybody wants everything from him. And I think I think it was just more overwhelming than we probably have any idea about, because especially the fact that being so close to his mom and his mom passing so early, that was like the one lean on that he had, that one real place. And when that was gone, he and Vernon weren't so close, so he didn't really have that family tie. So really, he was left with sycophants, and people just telling him he's doing great no matter what, and And there was it seemed like he never got a connection. Ringo said that at least with the Beatles we had each other, right, to keep each other real and keep each other grounded. But he didn't really have anybody to kind of keep in that way, or to and I think that was super difficult for him, being the first rock star, literally the first rock star.
And there's something to be said that you get this false sense of reality when you encompass yourself in a world of just yes men and no one telling you the truth. And I've always said, I believe that Elvis stopped growing emotionally. He was emotionally immature, first with the fame at such a young age, and then with his mother's death. His mother was his anchor, and then all of a sudden that anchor was gone. Gladys told him the truth, and Gladys was also a moral compass in a lot of ways. He cared what his mother thought. He never wanted to do anything that would disappoint her. And then with her death, he didn't have that anymore.
Absolutely.
And he surrounded himself with all these yes men, and you do get this, false sense of what's real and what's not. Yeah. And they would, they wanted to keep their jobs. They wanted to keep their status in his life. And I think that in a lot of ways, that was to Elvis's demise.
I agree. And I also, in addition to that, after his mom passed, of course, after the Army, we go into those movie years. And, really the only one he's really answering to is Colonel Parker. And he's guiding his career. And I think Elvis always thought in the back of his mind that one wrong step and he's right back at that shack in Tupelo. I always thought that that was a big hang. So it's like, I'm not gonna interrupt anything the Colonel said. Whatever this movie is, whatever it is, we're doing it. It's making money. I'm not going to be back there again. And I don't think that there was. I think there was a nervousness to want to say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and possibly ruin his career and be nothing again. I think people forget that, like, by the time 63, 64, and the Beatles were coming along, that, like, Elvis, I think, really did have a little bit of a shaking trepidation that he was losing relevance at all. And was he going to be a seller anymore? Was he going to be, what was he going to be in 10 years, much less 2 years? You know,
Well, I
so
think that Elvis definitely had an insecurity when it came to business manners. And I believe, this is my opinion, I believe that Colonel Tom Parker, for all the good that he did, I think he did take advantage of that insecurity that Elvis had. And I think Colonel made it in a way that, hey, you need me. And I think Elvis believed that he needed Colonel Tom Parker, and he was insecure with his fame and where he was in his career. And I think Colonel played on that to an extent.
I think he did too. And I think Elvis realizes when, when Colonel picked him up at the beginning, that everything started happening, the TV shows, everything that was going on, no matter what. Colonel was there. He had a rock with him, I think, with that whole thing, even through all the controversy of the waist up and which is another thing that I wanted to talk about, was just the context of that. The context that people forget. Like, people say, oh, why was he so great? You know, you see him doing Shake, Rattle, and Roll, Flip, Flop, and Fly the first time Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey show. People are like, well, what was so big? What was so great? And you lose the context of the fact that every teenage boy in the world then had crew cuts and was very clean cut and everything else. And this guy's looking greasy. He's singing black music right in front of their children on television, which was, and this was like this. I mean, if you look at the lyrics of, Flip, Flop, and Fly, I'm like a one-eyed snake, one-eyed cat keeping in a seafood store. I can look at you till you ain't no child no more. I mean, still, that's pretty dodgy lyrics, but he was doing that in 1956 in front of the children, on the Ed Sullivan, on Tommy and Jimmy, that whole thing. And I think people forget that was so cutting edge. That was absolutely shocking. And the Colonel rode that through. That's one thing, at least he didn't say, hey, stop doing that because it's upsetting America. He's like, hey, it's working. It's working, and you're doing your thing, and everything is, and that was good. He let Elvis do his thing, and there was no, like, you're upsetting everybody. Let's bring this in. He wasn't shined up until much later. Until we're talking the movies, mid-60s and stuff.
There's definitely a lot of different lives of Elvis Presley when you look at his career. If you look at the 1950s Elvis, the rock and roll rebel, the controversial rock and roll singer that a lot of people, especially parents, were up in arms about. And then you had the 60s Elvis, the movies, just feel good, sometimes on the cheesy end. You didn't see him on tour. He wasn't performing on stage. And then you get into the late 60s with the 68 comeback, and he's back. And then
when he stood up to the Colonel.
Right. And you have that era from like 68 to 74, 75, where he was something to, he was back on top. And then you get closer to the end of his life. Still powerful voice, a great performer, but there was a decline. I want to ask you, if Elvis had lived, let's say he did not die in 1977, where do you think his career would have ended up? Do you think he would have been in movies? Do you think he would have still been performing? What do you see for him?
Well, I do weep for the fact that he did not do that Star is Born that was offered to him in 76 when Barbra Streisand came to him to do that film, because that could have been a big turnaround and a big artistic turn that might have made him take an inner look at himself, because I think he was bored. I think he was just, year after year after year, he was bored. He needed to, if Elvis had not died then, I think he was ready for a turnaround by that point. Where it might have gone, that's anywhere to say. It's more how much Colonel would have still had his hands in, because Turning down that film, I think, was a major blow. And also, he wasn't allowed to do so many different songs that he wanted to do because Colonel would want half the publishing rights from the songwriters for it. So some of the greatest songs that Elvis really wanted, like Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, he was going to do that one. And Colonel said, well, unless I get, most of the publishing rights from Dolly Parton, we're not doing it. And Dolly's like, well, that's not happening.
Well,
So,
let's give a shout out to how smart Dolly was. I mean,
oh, amen.
Kudos to her.
Yeah, Dolly's on it. She's my girl. And I can't imagine what Elvis might have done with that song. It might have been fantastic. But I think he would have had to have gotten out of the clutches of the publishing holds, to be able to blossom. And if he could get out of that, then I think the world was open then. I think he could have really come back with an amazing album of incredible songs that have a thread through them, that have a real where the album had some sort of beginning, middle, and end, had a feel to it. The way Sinatra had his September of My Years and, that kind of thing. The albums had a certain tone and a certain mood rather than just a collection of songs. And I think he could have probably come with something like that, knowing that, hey, you know what, I can record anything now, because people were dying for him to record their songs.
Right.
So it was there. So I think it would have been a resurgence. I think if that would have been just that little turn, I think he would have had career Mach 2. I think it would have been the next comeback, from the constant touring. I think he even looks a little bored, like he's going through the motions a bit, even though he's still got it, his voice is still tip top, if not better than it's ever been in his career. I can't imagine what he could have done with some amazing fresh material and that kind of thing. I think he could have had a real resurgence, but the resurgence unfortunately came when he died. And then boom, there was the resurgence right there. I mean, it was just, and that's another thing I noticed when I moved over to England. I had no idea, because I sort of discovered Elvis the most when I was moving to England. We sailed on the QE2, the cruise line. So it's like a 5 or 6 day cruise over to England, and they have an Elvis channel on there, an Elvis radio station. And I heard American Trilogy, and it reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, oh my God, I forgot this. Oh, and then I became a double, triple fan again. And then going to England, finding out that you have no idea. I had no idea that he was still culturally relevant. Like if a single was released, a song was released, in '85, that's an Elvis tune, it like went to #1. I mean, it was just like Elvis is still palpable, huge, over there. So I went there at the right time, to be into Elvis, to find other people. There were a few people my age that were kind of like, I love him too, and that kind of thing. So that was a big deal. So the resurgence almost was kind of there, and I think, wow, if he'd had a career when he, if he'd have carried on, it could have been amazing, actually.
Right.
I mean, he was only 42.
I know, that is so crazy. I was just talking to someone today. I'm outing myself. I'm older than 42, and it's so weird, but I remember being 42 and thinking to myself, wow, like that is so young. And yet he had lived so much. He lived so many different lifetimes in that short 42 years.
Totally.
I wanted to ask you, we're going to read some of the comments. I see all your comments, guys. Keep them coming. We're going to address a lot of these. But first, Steve, I want to ask you, what is your favorite era of Elvis Presley?
Oi, sorry about that. I've got a dog. Okay, all right. Oi. Favorite era? Okay, I think it's still, no matter how much I love the 50s thing, which came like the rock and roll icon thing, I'm still always drawn to the 70s era, from 68 onwards, the 68 comeback special and onwards. There's just something, again, mythical about that time, because we don't have all the footage that we want, we want more, and there's still more to get, and there's still, the Elvis on tour footage, all this incredible stuff that we try and get on bootlegs and get here and there just because we want a taste of it. That goes to show that era is very, very strong and very, very, very coveted by a lot of Elvis fans, because the 50s stuff is pretty covered. We got a lot of material there. There's a lot of footage. There's a lot of good stuff. 70s a little light,
Yeah.
So it's always been the 70s. What about you?
I have to agree with you. I've said this
Yeah.
many times. There's something about, for me, it's that 1968 to 1973
There you go.
that I am the most drawn to.
Mhm,
Um, I think, I think even when I was younger, I was more drawn to that era, the music, the way he looked, just in his persona.
Yeah,
There's something about that 68 comeback, how the raw energy,
yeah,
just I feel, and there was a vulnerability about him too that I was
true.
just really drawn to. I just think his voice was more mature. I think he was very like on the top of his game. I think those
Absolutely.
were his prime years, that 1968 to 73. I just think he was just magical. I mean, it was just
Completely agree.
very raw energy, and I
Yeah,
think he was just at the top of his game, and you could tell when he was on stage he was still having fun with it. And
absolutely. Yeah,
it
it was
was,
still fresh. It was still.
yes, yeah, and there was an
Excuse me.
energy that in that era that just you can feel the energy. I was
Absolutely.
watching a video on YouTube with him in Vegas, and he was
Yeah,
in the white jumpsuit, and he's kind of making up the lyrics with some of the songs, but he's having fun, he's engaging with the audience, which he always, from what I hear, he did. But there was just something about him in that time. I felt like he was in a good place in his life. I
yeah,
think he was happy, he was a father, he was just more mature, and I think he was
yeah.
really excited to be back on the road and excited about the music. And you can really tell when
It
someone's
glows. It
invested
glows.
and interested in what they're doing. I don't think he was complacent yet. I think he was just very excited to
Yeah,
be back on stage. And his voice,
yeah.
I just feel like, his voice was just very powerful during
And
that
the
time.
material was still strong. The material that he was coming out with was still very strong.
Hmm.
The songs that he was doing live and things like that. I mean, and his voice was just pretty. I mean, it was flawless. I
Hmm.
mean, I challenge you to find Elvis singing off key live. I mean,
Right.
it just doesn't happen. It's just there. It's
Hmm.
just amazing. And the vibrato, his voice was perfectly developed at that point,
Oh yeah.
like no
Um.
other. And charisma off the
Oh
charts.
yeah. Very
Yeah,
charismatic.
nobody else could carry off a jumpsuit.
That that is true.
Even the best looking, most
The
charismatic
Rolling
people in the world.
Stones, the Rolling
Yeah,
Stones, like they gave it a good shot. But
they,
I
they,
think
they give it a
Elvis,
go. Yeah, yeah,
I think
not so much
Elvis
so.
really, really, especially in the early 70s. I'm going to
Yeah.
read through a lot of your comments, guys, but I'm just going to pick a few right now for Steve and I discuss. Colin asked a really good question. He says, if Elvis had lived and if he was still alive today, would he be as popular as he is now?
Oh, I mean,
That's a good question.
it's a good question. It's a hard one to do. I mean, I always, I mean, it's a bit cliche to say, but I always look at sort of Tom Jones' career and how it went through 70s, 80s, and even
Mhm.
90s. He's always had some ups and downs, but he's always kind of been there and been respected, and people go to see him,
Yeah,
and
but
all
Tom
that kind of thing.
Jones, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, there's Tom Jones and then there's Elvis
Oh no,
Presley.
no,
They're
no!
just,
I know that it's the only one that I can in the style of music. In other words, I can't. I can't compare him to a Rolling Stones. I can't.
no.
You know what I mean? I've got to find a solo singer that had a certain path around the same era to kind of get a path going. So it's hard for me to think about that. But I would think, yeah, I would think he'd be as revered as he ever was. Really, I don't see why any of that would stop.
I
Or
think
would die.
I think the mystique wouldn't be there as much as it is now. I think a lot of, we
Depending
have to
on
give,
how
yeah, I
away
mean,
he was.
where he would have ended, where he would have taken his career.
Mhm.
Elvis dying. I mean, there is something that happens when a celebrity of that status dies young and unexpectedly. They're all of a sudden they're put into this time bubble, and he's got this mystique, and
Yeah,
the what could he have done? And I
right.
think that allows him to live forever.
Mhm.
And because here we are now, 45, almost 45 years later,
Yeah.
we're talking about Elvis Presley.
And we were but nippers when he died, or I certainly was. I don't even know
Yeah,
if you were on the charts.
yeah, I was 8 months old. I don't remember. Yeah.
Just made it. Just made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. And even to this day, little kids, and stuff like that, in Elvis. I don't know if you ever saw that YouTube video, absolutely fantastic, of a father driving his SUV. He's got the baby
with
in the
the
back.
baby in the back.
American Trilogy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he's just like, he's just singing the bits and like, it's like, it's adorable. And that kid's going to grow up and be a huge Elvis fan. And there's a dad that was, younger than I am probably, and playing that, so I think it's Bruno Mars. I mean, he was the youngest Elvis imitator ever, and he's a huge Elvis fan, and he was long after the fact. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And you notice it when you go to Graceland. You notice it. It's just from all over the world. People are not making all over the world trips for other people that have been dead for 50 years or 45 years or whatever it is.
It is very interesting. I mean, I've said this so many times on my live and on podcasts, and I know people are tired of me saying it, but I'm saying it again. It is what it is. Elvis was a connector in life, and he's still a connector in death. And it's amazing that, there's a lot to be said about the Elvis community, in the sense that, he brings us all together from all over the world, that we would be strangers otherwise. And
That's
Elvis
true.
has a way of bringing people together.
Absolutely.
And you form these relationships. When I started this podcast in 2018, I had no idea the friendships and the relationships that I would have to this day, that I'll probably have for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
And that's a gift.
Yeah. And kudos to you, by the way, because that is, it's the first time I heard you was on that. I was looking for podcasts. I found yours, was hooked right away. I'm like, this girl knows her stuff. What's going on? I heard you from the early ones, and, going on. Then we're graduating on. So, okay, now she's only interviewing Priscilla and, everything else. So I think she's doing quite well. So I gotta say, I gotta give it to you. You are carrying the torch fabulously, really.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see that it's still, it's still around. It's still a thing. And I'm not some geeky Elvis guy. There's a lot of us geeks around.
Yeah. Well, we're geeks, but we're cool geeks.
We're cool geeks, man.
Yeah. I want to read this from Rockstars. It says, after 1965, Elvis couldn't achieve his highest potential with Colonel Tom Parker. Rebel Against Colonel's Plan, 68 Compact, American Sound Sessions, Aloha was the final accomplishment. Agree or disagree?
Aloha being the final accomplishment?
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I would disagree with that too. I mean, that was the last, sort of maybe major milestone or something, if you're looking at his career in bullet points, maybe. But it was far from over at that point. That was just that was just one of the things he had done then. And then you still got loads of. Do
you think though that the Aloha special was where he peaked?
Where he peaked? No, I don't think that's a peak. I think it's a peak, but it's not the peak.
Right.
No,
Where do you think he peaked?
I think the peak is still right around the 68 and the 68, really? 72 on tour, all that era, because I think there's so much more. The only thing that I'm not over the moon about with the Aloha thing, and I love it. I love it to death. He looks great. He's voiced in great shape. Everything. You can just tell that he knows that it's satellite around the world. So he's not as completely natural as he usually is in concert and engaging with the crowd. I mean, he does engage with them, but not nearly as much as he did when he was just touring. And I feel like without a proper, one of those was never really filmed. We never really got a good one like that. Like it just, or a few shows, that just normal shows that were filmed, like at the, just somewhere in Portsmouth, Virginia or something, just those shows to me are like gold, because that's him being him, natural, whatever. But he knows he's going around the world, and he's very much, not stoic, but he's a little on guard. He's very much aware of what's going on.
It's almost mechanical in the Aloha special.
Exactly. But it doesn't take away from the performance. The voice, no. I mean, the songs, I mean, forget it. I mean, it's some of the greatest songs he ever did live are on that show, no question. But I just feel like there's just that element missing, that playful element, that normally. What's your?
Ghosty has a good point here, going back to where Elvis would be. Elvis's career, had he lived, probably would have taken the same path as Johnny Cash's later career, highly acclaimed, stripped down albums, and a living legend status.
Yeah, I mean, that's highly probable. Yeah, absolutely.
I've always said this. I've said this in my earlier podcast. You know, I could see Elvis as one of the highwaymen with Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson. Yeah, I could totally see him going that way in the 80s. That would have been something.
Jamming with those guys and having fun with them, bouncing off of them, everything else. I think that would have been amazing. Yeah, you're right. That would have shown a whole different side, you know, of him to be bouncing off other contemporaries like that.
That would have been cool. Rockstars says that concerning the Aloha special, Colonel did not want the lights behind him. He had to go against the Colonel. I didn't know that. Did you?
Is that right? No, that's a new one on me. No, I did not know that. I thought that was just an agreed upon set design from Pasetta and his crew.
So going through some of the comments here from, let's see, Johnny says that 69 and 70 in Vegas were his best singing and actual stage performances. Wayne Potter says, I agree. The Aloha rehearsal, Elvis was much more relaxed in himself. But, you know, going back to that, I mean, yes, it was a more mechanical, very straight-laced performance, but could you imagine the pressure that man had on him? I mean, at the time, that was like, wasn't that the first satellite performance?
By satellite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not taking that away from her at all. No, that is a lot of pressure. There's no question. I just feel like there could have been another, like, I think it's sad that the Madison Square Garden concert didn't get filmed, or one of the concerts didn't get filmed. But the reason they didn't do that, because they just recorded all the on tour material. So I guess the Colonel didn't figure it was cost efficient or whatever to go and do the Madison Square Garden Center, because it's basically the same thing, but, you know, different. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think that would have been, that might have been the one. That might have been the one we were talking about even more. You know? Oh yeah. So, yeah, it definitely slipped the rug right out from under us on that one, because that footage that did come out with that Prince from Another Planet release that came out, you know, that footage put together, you kind of got a much more good feeling about what the Madison Square Garden concerts were like.
Now how long did you live in England?
Oh, that was like 16 years.
There was, I'm trying to find Colin's, Colin, I think it was Colin. I'm trying to find it. He had made a good observation, if I can find it, about that in England, in the UK right now, I can't find it, Colin. In the UK, we are bombarded by talent shows, X Factor, The Voice, etc. I think if Elvis was alive today, he'd probably be a judge on one of those type of shows. Agree or disagree?
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think not. Quite honestly, I don't think I'd like to see him put there. Not that I'm taking anything away from those shows or anything, but I just don't feel like I'd be comfortable seeing Elvis sitting in a judge's chair next to Mel B or something, you know, so whatever it is. I don't know. It doesn't got me well.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, you know, he would be what, 80? He'd be like 85, 86. He's up there.
87, actually.
87.
Same age as my mom. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were born the same year, a month apart.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to imagine him being 87 years old, and what would he be doing at 87?
Exactly. And when would he have retired? When, you know, that type of thing. I mean, I don't know how old Sinatra got to. I think it was like 82, something like that. But, you know, he was still doing stuff right at the end there, you know, towards the end and stuff. Like, he might have, I think he might have still had a Sinatra-like thing around him, you know.
I kind of see him
still revered.
Yeah, I see him more of a Sinatra-ish a type way about him.
Right.
It would be interesting. You know
Some
is
classy
also,
duets with Elton John and,
yeah.
things
Do
like
you
that.
think that he would? Do you think he would
Oh,
have had to?
I don't think he'd have any reason not. I think he would have loved that, actually. I mean, what did he like more than jamming off of other people and look at the way he interacted just with his own singers and his band. Can you imagine, back and forth with other contemporaries or even people younger than
Elvis
him?
Presley and Prince.
Oh my God!
That,
Can you even
yes.
imagine? Or Prince just coming in on a studio session just to lay down some guitar for him, or
Oh my gosh,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, talk about two of my idols getting together. I mean, wow.
Elvis and Lady Gaga.
That's now there you go. The way she did with Tony Bennett. These kind of trajectories can happen. These I can see, and they're tasteful. They're right exactly what should happen. Oh, Elvis and Lady Gaga hitting notes together. Wow.
That would be, yeah.
That would be amazing. I'm hoping that he would have still had the voice that he had, and and able to keep it as Tony has, through this.
Oh yeah, Tony Bennett still has a powerful voice. I think Elvis. I mean, if you look at the 1977 CBS concert that aired after he died, he wasn't, it wasn't his best look. Let's be honest.
Not his best look.
If you were not to watch that concert, if you were just to listen to him, that his voice was still, when he sang that song Hurt.
Oh,
I mean, it's so powerful.
It soars. It's amazing.
He still had it. He still had that magic that a lot of entertainers don't have.
That's right. Yeah, it was crystal clear as day. You wouldn't have said like, he's struggling with his voice, and always wasn't struggling one bit. He was hitting notes like and he was always testing the limits too. He was a little bit more pushing the envelope with his voice, which was another amazing thing. So then he was going outside his box more a little bit, which was really good. That's why I think like if he had turned around, got some new material, and taken that voice with it. I mean, wow! I can't even imagine where that could have gone. That could have been quite. I'm still
thinking about Elvis and Lady Gaga and Elvis and Prince. Like,
oh my God!
Yeah. Man.
Oh yeah, with the lights and the magic and the everything that it is. I was quite happy with the duets they did kind of put together. Recently they've had the Bublé one was pretty cool. What they did with the orchestration, and things like that, where they changed the background music and put in the sort of the London Orchestra and they had so there was a little hint of what that could have been like. It's not real, it's not live, so it's hard to really make it feel the chemistry, but at least it gives you an idea that certainly could have been a possibility, a possible way for him to go.
I have another one for you. This is
please.
From Ghosty.
I love
Elvis and U2.
Elvis and U2?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can see that.
I can see it. It's a little different. I would have never thought of that. Good job,
totally
Ghosty.
See it. Absolutely. I saw U2 and they did a little background. I love Leonard Cohen, and they did a song with Leonard Cohen and backed him up on it. And Leonard was just very Leonard in the front, and then you had U2 just backing him up. And I can see that being Elvis and U2 just backing him up and, just doing the whole thing. I'm really, by the way, off the cuff, I'm looking forward to that new Elvis film that's coming out. The one that's the musical from, what's his name? The guy that did Romeo and Juliet and
Baz Luhrmann.
Baz Luhrmann.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am too. And I know there's a lot, I've seen on social media, a lot of people have some negative things to say about it. And I'm one of those people, I don't judge until I have no judgment yet.
Me neither. I'm waiting until I see.
I'm waiting until I see it. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah.
We know how Baz Luhrmann is. We know his work.
Style.
So I think if you go into it knowing how he does his movies, no one is going to be able to get everything in a 2-hour movie.
Correct.
He's picking an aspect of Elvis's life. In front of what I understand is about his relationship with Colonel Tom Parker.
That's right.
So I'm hoping.
Played by Tom Hanks, which.
But it's Tom Hanks. I mean, come on, like how can you go wrong with Tom Hanks? I mean, that right there.
There's the draw.
and no actor, no matter how great of an actor they are. I mean, because I thought Kurt Russell was phenomenal.
Yeah.
For the movie of its time. I mean, there's
Yeah.
been so many actors who have portrayed Elvis that have been, you know, great and not so
Yeah.
great.
And so.
But you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to capture that whole entire essence of
Yeah.
an individual. And he's, you know, telling just an aspect of Elvis's story.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that it's going to be a good, fair assessment of
Yeah.
Elvis the man, and I hope that maybe we can see Colonel Tom Parker not as this character in Elvis history, that maybe this Tom Hanks will humanize him
Mhm.
a bit. I
Mhm.
hope it's fair to all of the individuals in Elvis's life that are portrayed in this
Right.
movie. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting because how much can he possibly put into a 2-hour movie?
Exactly. And the way that his style is very stylistic filmmaker. And so there's going to be a tone in that film. This is not going to be, I think people might expect a straight bio or something like that. I think it's
no.
going to be a little, have that sort of fantastical quality to it a little bit. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I don't think it's been explored enough with Elvis. They've done it with the Beatles across the universe. They did a brilliant job of it, interpreting Beatles songs and doing a thing with that. And they've done it with other artists like things like that. Elvis has never really gotten that kind of really great big screen treatment before. I don't think not enough. Not enough. It's like overdue.
This is he hasn't had a big screen movie. It's always been made for TV. That's right. I haven't thought about that.
So the last one was This Is Elvis, and that was just a documentary,
right.
And that was soon after the fact. But no, never any sort of we're going to see a Tom Hanks and It's a big Hanks. Elvis movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a huge deal. That's going to be a really huge deal. I'm super looking forward to that. I can't wait. I think it's long overdue for the respect that he is due. You know,
he is due.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest, for me, this is just my opinion. One of the things I hate about the Elvis history is how he is sometimes portrayed as almost like a cartoon character. Like it's almost like we forget that he's a person, and that he was a person, and that he was a father. He was, you know, a friend to many, a son. And I think that part of it's forgotten, and I'm hoping with this movie that we can that this is going to humanize him a bit more, and that we can understand why some of the decisions he made, and also, you know, understand this crazy dynamic him and Colonel had.
That hopefully that's going to be a big aspect of it. True, but you're right. He's always been, you know, people think of him as kind of almost a caricature. Rather than an actual artist. Oh, you know, they do all that. Okay, we get the joke. It's old. Move on. Do you know anything about like his music or his recording or anything like that? It's like the joke is so thin now. Like whenever I hear people making the joke, I'm like, really? I mean, thank you very much. Really? I mean, that's been going on for years. I mean, we're kind of done with that, right? You know, can we look at the man now? You know, and I think he deserves that, as well as he deserves the way that the Get Back documentary that just did with the Beatles, where they were able to get that material together and really form a succinct timeline. I don't know, did you see that at all on Disney Plus? Well, they took all the Let It Be material, the end of the, you know.
I heard you.
Yeah, and redid the whole thing and really made a succinct chronological thread through the whole thing. And I think that would be great if they could do that with what they have of the on tour material, which they have a complete and total. They got a cavalcade of on tour material, and this is the 50th anniversary year, and that's the crazy one, man. We need a really good version of that to come out.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, properly.
We're gonna go back. We're going to go back to that because I want to talk more, but I want to get some of these comments that we're getting from people. Jennifer makes a good point. She says that she could see Elvis having a cameo in one of the Ocean 11 movies. I could actually see that.
I can see that easy.
I can see that. I can see that.
Again, back to the Sinatra style thing. Totally classy, breaking and entering. Yeah, man. No, totally. Yeah.
Definitely.
Celebs all the way. Yeah.
Neil says this, and I agree with Neil on this too. He says that he thinks Elvis would have been into directing and producing movies. I can see that
I
as well.
don't doubt that at all. I think he had a real love for film, and I don't think he was able to get into it as much as he possibly could have. And I think that might have become a new passion of his. I think it's very right.
I have to just do a quick shout out. My friend Jimmy, for 25 years now. We've been friends for 25 years. He just said that he invited his wife to join the show. She is a huge Elvis fan. So big shout out to Jimmy and his wife. That's really cool. I'm so glad that they're here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Going through Jerry. Oh, so Jerry's Wasta is saying, didn't Parker have issues with the stage in the Aloha concert where the stage had gone out into the audience? That had to do something with the lights, I think.
Oh, okay. The light, but did he say, mean the stage, the runway going out into the audience?
So, yeah.
I think
that's what he meant. I guess that's what Jerry said. He goes, didn't Parker have issues with the stage in the Aloha concert where the stage had gone out into the audience? So
I hadn't heard that.
I haven't heard that either.
I can see where he might have, because like traditionally the stages were just that box right there, and then suddenly he's going to be right there amongst the fans. Is that going to be, too much, too accessible, too whatever? I don't know. I'm sure he might have found a sticking point there somehow.
I'm getting ready to blow your mind because my mind was just blown.
Oh, let me hear.
Miss Jan just pointed out she would have liked to see Elvis do "We Are the World" benefit in 1985. He would have been the same age as Willie Nelson and Kenny Rogers. I didn't think about that, but yes, he probably would have done that.
He would have been in that. He would have been in that in a heartbeat too. Considering all his charity stuff, and he was so philanthropic and everything, that's a given. I'm sure he would have had a hand in the production of it, probably. I mean, it would have been like, I want to get in on this. Big time. What could be more fun? What could be better?
Oh wow, I had never thought about that, Miss Jan. Thank you for pointing that out. But yeah,
that would be a dream amongst all those stars, and just kind of that would have been incredible. I would have liked to have seen, maybe even a McCartney duet, McCartney and Elvis, a little Beatle Elvis thing happen. That would have been nice. The possibilities, anything are endless.
And I could see Elvis like doing a duet with Beyonce.
No, totally.
I mean, I could totally see it right now.
Absolutely.
He would have totally done that.
Yeah,
totally.
You take some of your biggest, queens and kings of music, and they definitely going to work together at some point.
I could see it. Elvis, yeah.
Oh, the Glitz would have been there. Big time. Yeah, that would have been, or Celine. I mean, it would have been things like that, for sure.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
Going back to the movie, Rockstar says, I hope it's not going to try to justify Colonel's wrongdoing or make light of it to the point where it is sarcastic for comic relief. I don't think that Baz Luhrmann does movies like that. I don't think it's going to be a comic relief. I think it's going to be, it's going to be his perception. It's going to be, relative to an opinion. But I hope, I have to say, I hope it's going to be fair in that opinion. And it just opens up a little bit more for us to think about a different aspect, a different perspective, and to talk about it. Because I think a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about this movie for sure.
Yeah, sure. And characters are three-dimensional. Everybody's good and bad. And I think, movies nowadays show that a lot more. Even your hero is not always the greatest person. They've got bad things. There's going to be the good and bad. You show it all. Dexter's a classic example of that.
Yeah.
He's our hero, but he kills people. He's got that problem.
We got maybe some clarification about the stage. Neil said from the Aloha special.
Yeah.
Neil says that Elvis had glaucoma and the lights blinded him, and Colonel Tom Parker thought that Elvis might fall off the stage.
Oh.
So yeah, okay. So that makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, well, along with, back then I was noticing when you come on stage and they had those big flash bulbs back then in the audience, and you notice it even more in the CBS tapes in '77. They are blinding to the cameras. I don't know how he was seeing straight then, because I mean, it was just flash, 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 flash. I mean, he must have been, seeing those lights for another 20 minutes after they stopped, So I don't know, maybe he was adapted by that point. I mean, he's been in front of lights and all that for so long, that no sunglasses, on stage, just straight up. So
What do you what do you think Elvis's look would have been? Let's start decades. What do you think he would have looked like in the 80s, like his fashion choices?
I have thought about this.
Do you think he would have said goodbye to the jumpsuits? I think he would.
I thought about this a number of times. What I would love that would have happened, and I would have hoped happened maybe even a little sooner before he died, when he returned to the stage in '69, and he had the black suit. And he was very thin. He had the black, not the black leather suit, but the suit, the jacket, and it was kind of silky looking, kind of a scarf there. Total classy looking, really, really good. I thought that would be a great look to come back to. Get a nice, good, cool. I'm not talking a Sinatra suit. I'm talking an Elvis-y looking suit, but still a suit nonetheless, with some taste to it, some flair to it, things like that. I think he would have looked, and with that black hair, trimming back down again, I think it would have been there. It is, like, oh, okay, there he is. That's it. I had like a shark skin, sort of jacket, and very dark charcoal color. I always thought the black would look the best, and things like that. I was just like, I rather hope that he might have, ditched the jumpsuits a little bit earlier, quite honestly, but I know they were easier to move in and do his thing, and all that kind of thing. But I always fantasize in my head him walking out in just like a really cool
suit,
just looking like, oh, here he comes, man. Elvis is in the room, buddy. That type of thing. So that would be my thing. I think he would just have a mature yet still good flary rock and roll look. Do you know what I mean? Like not terribly over the top, but just enough to where you're like, oh yeah, there he is. Because he really didn't need that much extra. It was still him. It was still, he just had the look, and that's all it was. He just had to walk in the room. It didn't matter, what kind of shirt he was wearing or whatever, just that, the biggest one the one that always gets me is at the end of That's the Way It Is, when they show the after show and he's talking to Sammy Davis Jr. and all those people backstage afterwards, and he's wearing a black kind of just like a shirt, really almost looks reminiscent of the '68 comeback special, but not quite so much. It's more of a loose shirt, and that's it right there. But it's simple and it looks amazing. That's where I think he really would fly. I remember Eddie Murphy's famous quotes, like, I don't care who's in the room, Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Elvis walks in the room, there's nobody else in the room.
Exactly.
And I think that's true. I don't care what celebrity you're talking about. No, if Elvis walks in the room, nobody beats him.
We're almost running out of time, but I want to get to this. We've talked a lot about Elvis's. I know this has been fun. This has been good. We've talked a lot about Elvis's music. Sorry, got hair in my mouth. It happens. I want to just ask you. I just want to briefly talk about Elvis's movies. And do you have a favorite Elvis movie, and why is it your favorite? I have a feeling you have more than just one favorite.
Oh, I've got more than one favorite, no question. I think like King Creole is one of the ones that always rises very high for me, because Michael Curtiz, directed it. We're talking Casablanca time. We're talking, great style to this film. Vic Morrow, the acting, the story, it's a little dark. Walter Matthau, Carolyn Jones. The cast
Carolyn
is
Jones.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it's an incredible film. The scenery's great. Being down in New Orleans and the whole bit. Right from the opening number of Crawfish. As soon as I see Crawfish, I'm like, oh God, that Crawfish. Like, you talk to anybody who's ever like, if they've even slightly heard of Elvis, and they're like, oh, okay, can you name a song? And they name that. I'm like, but have you heard Crawfish? Have you actually listened? Have you seen the opening of this? To me, that's like,
the song itself is kind of dumb, but like, there's something about the way he sings it. I can't help. It's so
scenery.
Good.
Yeah. And it's almost haunting, because he's going off of that woman who's selling the fruits or whatever down there. And there's just something very got a little, and the way that, that little kicks in, and there's just something about the feel of it that's very, very different, sets the tone for the whole film. And there's some great music numbers in there. They're brilliantly done. And then after that's probably Jailhouse Rock. Those are probably like my two, if I had to say, from not counting the documentaries. And
I have a trivia question for you. What is the name of the book that King Creole was based on?
A Stone for Danny Fisher.
Yeah, right, there you go. I think I told you that in our message.
By Harold Robbins. No.
Did you do it? I own it. We have. Well,
I own it.
I don't
too.
own it. I gave it to it. I gave it to someone as a gift, but I have it somewhere in the room over there.
Oh, I'm telling you, who do you think you're talking to? Come on.
But I actually, have you read the book? Have you read any of the books that were based?
I read the book, but I read it back in school, like when I was like.
Me too. I was in
14.
7th grade when I read it for the first time.
He was a boxer and a whole bit. I mean, I think it was a little bit more adult oriented, so I kind of like, I kind of got it.
There was some stuff in there that a child should not have
been reading. It's a Harold Robbins book, so that's what it is. But yeah, it was all right. But I guess originally it was supposed to be James Dean that was supposed to play the role. Yeah. He was supposed to still be a boxer.
Yes.
And then James Dean passed away, and then they still had the script going around. They said, "Oh well, we'll turn into a singer."
Do you have a favorite movie from in the 60s?
Yeah, there's several, and you might laugh, but I put this one on the background, like if I'm cleaning house or something, like whatever, just doing stuff around. My go-to to have on in the background is Girls, Girls, Girls. I just, I don't know why, I just love that movie. I love the atmosphere. I like the way he looked in it. He definitely had the best dress in it. Some of the suits he's wearing in and everything. Some of the songs are really cool. Can't really take the bit with the two little girls when he's doing the singing back and forth. That gets a bit much. But generally, I love that film, and also Follow That Dream. I thought had a lot of good comedy in it. Yeah, it had some really good comic lines in it, and he was playing kind of a simpleton, so he was playing kind of stupid, and it was kind of fun to see him play simple. Kind of like almost like a Woody Boyd from Cheers kind of character, which is kind of funny. I like that.
And he definitely was a good actor. I think he was very underrated. And it is very disappointing and sad that he wasn't able to, strengthen that talent. And I think he could have done amazing things. You go from you think about King Creole, Wild in the Country, and then like some of his comedic, and those were like the drama parts that, he really delved into those parts. You could tell that he was really interested and what he was playing, and he was very focused on those roles. And then you go to like some of the comedies, like Live a Little, Love a Little, which I thought he was fantastic.
He was really good in that. Yeah, he's really good at playing that side in that side. Yeah. Almost not slapstick, but kind of like a wordy, kind of wordplay, fun, type of thing. And there was that great song in there. I walk along the thin line, darling. Dark shadows.
Wait, sing it again. Sing it again. You cut out.
I walk along a thin line, darling. Yes. Dark shadows follow me.
Yeah.
The Edge of Reality.
Edge of Reality. I was so close.
Oh my God, that is such a cool tune.
Yeah, and it really, and and that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Some of the songs in his movies, they are great songs.
Oh yeah.
That are so there that you just kind of like pushed under.
Girls.
Yeah. Like I think about, Change of Habit, which was not one of my favorite movies, but the song Let Us Pray. I love.
Yeah.
And Clean Up Your Own Backyard.
Oh, that's
what
a great
movie?
Tune.
What movie was that?
That's the one with the Choctaw Fair.
Is it based in the 1920s?
Trouble with Girls and How to Get Into It.
Say it again.
Trouble with Girls and How to Get Into It. Right?
Yeah, well, just Trouble with Girls.
Oh, Trouble Girls. It had to get in.
But you
that
know,
is a great tune.
talking about like Elvis doing duets and now, but if you listen to that song, Clean Up Your Own Backyard, I think I talked about this with the TCB guys. You know, there's Elvis is rapping in that song, and the way, in the rhythm, and the way that he sings each like beat. It's
on Sunday morning, lying in bed, it's all that, it's almost Imagine Dragon like.
Right, that's true. Yes, Imagine Dragon.
I love it. And one thing I do want to say about that very quickly, about those movies, is that you're right. He started off really wanting to be so much into the dramatics and into really getting into character and doing these things. And I think he got disappointed as of 65 and downward, because they were just going in the same formula so much that the story that saddens me the most to hear is when he was on set one time and he found out that, who's it from Bullet, the famous actor, Steve McQueen was on the lot. And Elvis was almost like a little embarrassed that Steve McQueen was going and making this great film and everything, and he met him on the time, and here he is working on, I don't know, Tickle Me, maybe, something like that. So there was something in his gut that like he's meeting somebody who he greatly respects in the films that he does and everything, and he's thinking, this is what I'm working on, you know. So that I thought that's quite sad, really. You know, that was one of the collateral damage of doing those films. As much as when it's a rainy day and you need a good laugh and you just want something to put light on, an Elvis film always does it. That's the benefit of it. Doesn't have to all be great art. You know, sometimes it just needs to be something that's just going to take you away from the shit that you're living in. You know,
I mean, there's some of these Elvis movies that you can't help but be in a good mood. You know, for my mom and I, our tradition was Christmas Eve, after we got done with the Christmas Eve festivities at my grandmother's house. What she and I would do, we would pick an Elvis movie, and that would be what we would watch on Christmas Eve, and it would just be she and I, because my brother and sister were not Elvis fans. And you know, I can't. I'm just trying to think of a movie. I mean, Flaming Star, that was kind of a downer. You know, but you don't watch. But you know, he had some feel good. You take it for what it was. I mean, it was, you know, a feel good movies. And I feel like Elvis really did not understand the joy that he brought to his fans with these movies. Yes, they were not going to win Academy Awards, but they did mean something special to a lot of people.
Exactly. And that is the other side of the coin. That is it's the happy place that it takes you to. You know, it's the same way that today we can watch a good old slapstick comedy, or we can watch a very heavy film. Or, you know, it depends. But sometimes you just need to leave your brains at home, have fun, some good music, you know, and a good laugh, and it takes the mood away. You know, and God knows we need that. You know, more and more every flipping day. So that's I'll tell you what, that's the cure to the COVID blues. Stick on an Elvis film. You know, I did yesterday. I was feeling horrible. I was just, oh God, I was just in it, and I'm just like, I gotta watch something funny or something. And first thing I did was like I stuck on a Seinfeld, and I'm like, that's great, you know, got a good laugh. And I'm like, no, I need an Elvis film right now. And I just, you know, and on went Girls. You know,
is Girls your go-to movie to have?
For the 60s? For the 60s, fun, just general, and Roustabout. What am I thinking?
Roustabout.
I love Roustabout. That's really good, and that's got what's her name? The actress that plays the girl's mother. Oh my God, terrible. Suddenly losing all my faculties for names, but famous actress. We all know her, and we'll remember, you know, a half hour from now. But anyways, a great songs, you know, and great story. That's a big favorite of mine. You got more comments there?
Yes, we do. Let's read a few more before we say goodbye. Gosh, we went over. Usually I'm only like 45 minutes to an hour, but this went by really fast.
Hey, anyone will tell you get me chatting on some of these subjects, man. You ain't shutting me up. It's like, that's a good thing. I'm glad.
You guys, I'm so sorry if I miss a few of the comments. They're a lot coming. So, Doug Dickinson says that he really believes that Elvis would have recreated himself. He just didn't live long enough. I agree with that.
He was young enough to do that.
Yeah, I mean, 42.
42,
I mean, that's
10 years younger than I am, or nearly 10 years younger than I am. I mean, come on, that's crazy.
Ghosty says that he could have seen Elvis in a comedy buddy movie with Burt Reynolds and the love interest. Get this, the love interest, Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, you just named two of my all-time favorite people, so that's perfect. I saw Olivia Newton-John live a couple of years ago. Fantastic. I'm a big Burt Reynolds fan. Huge Burt Reynolds fan, in fact. And yeah, and I love that Elvis and him were kind of friends too. They kind of knew each other, which was awesome. And he was even at his funeral in that. But yeah, I could see that. Can you imagine Burt and Elvis in a film?
You know that Elvis was originally supposed to be in Grease in the Frankie Avalon role.
Oh, yes, I remember now. You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the scene where Rizzo is at the slumber party, she's doing that, she's making fun of
look at me, I'm Sandra Dee.
Yes.
Yeah.
They added the Elvis part that was filmed August 16th, the day that Elvis died, and they added that part about Elvis. I
read about that too. I forgot all about that. And they put the photo in there at the time. And imagine they're making this film about the 50s, and and even that line about Elvis, that whole thing, and for it to be filming it on that day. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That would have been really cool to see Elvis in that Frankie Avalon.
I think that would have been amazing, as long as the Colonel didn't want half of the publishing rights of Grease. But
I have a confession to make. And which is probably going to shock a lot of people. I have not seen the movie Grease through its entirety. I've only seen like certain scenes because, I did see I did see as an adult, I think I was about 20. It was right when I moved to Alaska. I saw Grease on stage. So I did see the stage performance, but when my mom wouldn't let us watch the movie, she didn't think it was a good, she didn't want us to watch it because she said it wasn't a good, it wasn't a good thing for young girls to watch because.
Oh, it had adult situations.
She says because Sandra Dee changed, she went to like a bad girl status to get a guy. I remember her explaining it, and I just was like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
and at the time, I remember at the time, but here's the funny thing: she let us watch Grease 2.
I love Grease 2.
And Grease 2, I like that song "Cruel Rider." I love Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah,
yes. So she let us watch Grease 2, but we couldn't watch Grease. What? I don't know.
I'm a big proponent of Grease 2. I tell people all the time, don't think of it as a continuation. Just think of it as its own film. Don't compare it. But
that one, though, some of the songs, I was just watching it. It was on TV probably a few months ago. Yeah. And I was listening to the songs in Grease 2, and I was like, I don't think my mom was paying a lot of attention to
close attention.
Because some of those.
The whole reproduction number alone will do it. But no, I thought the music in that was fantastic.
Really good. And I was like that weird kid that had to act out everything. And I remember trying to because I was always going to be Michelle Pfeiffer's character. And I remember as a kid, mimicking all her dance moves and trying to it was sad.
To be the Michael Carrington character, that guy, or the T-Bird guy. What was his name?
Oh yeah. See, I thought the guy that she broke up with to go with Sandra Dee's cousin,
Adrian Smed.
I thought he was the cute one. I'm like, why would she?
Exactly.
But he was the night, which is so kind of telling how my mind worked, because the Australian guy was he was a nice guy. He was not a jerk.
But then he's the one that had to turn into the bad boy.
Exactly. And why are they making these movies? Why can't people just like you for who you are? Why do you have to be edgy or whatever?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was the time.
Yeah.
We're re-examining it in 2022 eyes.
Yeah.
But back then, you're a kid, you're watching, this is fun. I like this. Like, what's wrong with this? You know, good stuff.
Oh, I lost the comments. Let's see. Oh no, how do I get the comments back? Well, I don't know what happened. I see the video. Oh my goodness, you guys.
Are they overcrowding? Are they?
Oh, I found it. Oh, I guess I had to click live chat.
There we go.
Okay, let's see. Let's go. How are you doing on time? Can you talk for a few more minutes? We got some more.
Where am I going? I'm in quarantine with COVID.
I know. We both have COVID here, but yet we showed up. Let me go read some of these. Oh, here's a question. Neil says, how many have watched Deliverance with Burt Reynolds? I have never seen that movie.
Yeah,
have you?
Seen it a couple times. Yeah. It's good. I mean, it's a great film. It's a bit of a downer. It's it's not, you don't watch it and go, I'm in the mood for a fun film. Let's watch Deliverance.
Okay, so that's not a movie I should watch tonight, like to be in a good mood.
No, not if you want a good mood. No, it's kind of heavy. It's kind of no. I mean, I have to really be in a mindset to actually watch. It's not one that I would rewatch for pleasure, but it is one that I enjoyed when I was watching it. Like, okay, this was a good film, but once or twice is enough. You know.
Back to Grease. This is
Cannonball
cute.
Run's better.
I need to watch the movie. I need to watch Grease. I may have to.
You do. That is your homework assignment. And then can we just do like a whole Grease episode?
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we should. Maybe we should do that.
One quick funny story about that. When Grease came out, it was the first movie I saw at the movies with my dad. He took me to see it, right?
Aww.
So I was like 7 when it came out, right? And I fell in love with it. And I came home and my stepdad bought me a little black leather jacket, right? And I took a white crayon and I made the T-Birds logo on the back of it. Now, mind you, I was living in Virginia. This was the summertime in Virginia. Like 90-degree humidity heat, and I was walking around all summer with a black leather jacket on that said T-Birds on it, carrying a radio boombox that was playing the Grease soundtrack, hoping that I was going to one day run into the crush that I had at school, Jessica Middleton. I still remember her name.
Oh, you still have her
Jessica
name?
Middleton. Right. She was my Sandy. I'm going to find her, and I'm wearing my T-Bird jacket in 90-degree heat and humidity in Virginia. So, I mean, that was a sight to behold. That's when I was becoming really obsessed with movies and music.
Well, I mean, when I was 14, I didn't wear leather jackets, but when I was 14 years old, after rewatching Elvis and Me, I went to Lee Drugs on Stadium Drive in Phoenix City, and I bought myself some black hair dye. And locking myself in the bathroom and not telling anyone, I dyed my hair, not just jet black. I dyed it. My hair was like this light brown color, and I dyed it like purple black. I mean, black.
Comic book black.
Yeah. And for some reason, I thought my mom and I thought she wouldn't notice.
Well, you're not the only one. I dyed my hair completely black too at about 14 years old because I was obsessed with Elvis. Me too.
But I was trying to be Priscilla. And I remember my dad, like, I remember him like looking at my hair, like picking my hair up and just like, really? And I'm like, I look perfect. Like, I thought I looked great. And I see some of the pictures of me at 14 after I did that to my hair, and it's.
You got to post a couple of those. Yeah. We've got to see that in the jungle room.
No.
Come on, give it up.
No.
Gotta see it.
It was a lot of sadness going on in my life then. I really thought I was cute, and it was not.
Yeah, I did too.
Not cute. Because I was wearing glasses. And, in the 80s, I had the big Coca-Cola bottle glasses. Like, wow. I was not. It was sadness going on in my.
McLean?
It was bad.
Oh my goodness.
Going back to Grease, this is cute. Ghosty says, and yet Jamie K is hopelessly devoted to Elvis. That's cute.
Well, this is true.
Heather Lomax is here. Hi, Heather. let's go through. Wow, I missed a lot. Oh, Heather's here, so that's awesome. Welcome, Heather. Heather Lomax is a we call her our Jungle Room musician. Very talented musician. You guys should meet.
Oh.
She's also a musician. Has some great
Well,
songs
hello.
out.
Yes, great. Absolutely. Musicians unite.
Yes. If you like Burt Reynolds, you need to watch The Man Who Loved Women. It's so funny. Have you never heard of that?
I saw it ages ago. Yeah, I mean, I liked it, but I just haven't seen it in a long, long time. That was one of the big ones for me. But no, for me, it was always Smokey, Cannonball, and what was the other one? Oh God, the one where he thought he was dying. The End, with Dom DeLuise and him. That was really good. He thought he was dying, so he goes and he lives his life as he wants to. He gets a diagnosis, and it's like a black comedy, but it's actually pretty good.
The only movie I remember Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I've seen that a gajillion times.
Me too.
That's one of those ones you can slip on and just have a laugh. It's just one of those. It's well done. It's a good film. Good
I love
film.
how we've gone from Elvis to Grease to Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds slipped in some Imagine Dragons. We're just gonna go Grease 2. I mean, hey, when do I ever get to talk about Grease 2? Super never.
I think that would be, that would be a fun episode. Watching the movie Grease, because I've never seen it, seen the movie, and doing a live on that. You guys comment below if you think we should do a Grease episode. Oh, Sherry Lacker's on. Hi, Sherry. Todd Hensley. Hi, Todd. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry. We've just been so wrapped up in this conversation. I haven't been able to read all the comments. Greg Webb says Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, the best little whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I know the movie. I can see it, but I don't think I actually ever watched it.
It was good. I mean, it was a musical first, and they did a pretty good screen version of it. It wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't love it, but it's also entertaining to see Burt and Dolly doing a duet together and kind of joking around with each other and the playfulness and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're seeing two great legends that we sort of have a soft spot for, and in this film, and this is the side characters. There's great actors in it, aside from it, and it's
that's another movie I need to watch. Maybe we should do a movie. All the movies classics that Jaime hasn't seen.
You're talking to the right person. I'm a film buff, so it's there's not a lot that I haven't seen.
And I love movies.
Misspent youth, darling. Misspent youth.
What speaking, going back to Elvis really quick, what do you think about a duet with Elvis and Dolly Parton? Do you think that would have ever happened?
See, that would have been the one. That would have worked beautifully. I can see the sweetness of her voice blending so beautifully with his vibrato. They both had that very sweet vibrato. I think that would have been magic, actually. I'd love for them to electronically try that sometime.
Yeah.
See how they blend together.
Rock Stars. Hey, maybe I think I'm going to do this. Rock Star says do a Grease reaction night. Maybe I should do a video of me watching Grease for the first time.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
And the best little whorehouse, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that on here, but it's a movie. I think we're G-rated enough on that. I think it'll be all right. I mean, I know the movie, but I don't think I ever seen it. I think I was too young. I mean, because my mom was she really was strict about what we watched. Obviously, I couldn't watch Grease.
Right.
And then you get to a certain age, and it's
Yeah, and cable coming the time that it did, so you had all this stuff in the home unedited.
Right.
And you didn't have locks or anything like that. It was just kind of don't watch that.
Yeah, because I remember watching 16 Candles and some of those movies, Breakfast Club, but it came on TV, so I saw the edited version. And so I remember I was just telling John this the other day that when I remember when my oldest daughter was probably 10 or 11. And I thought, oh, this will be a good movie. Let's get 16 Candles. And like, you know, I went and rented it. I did not know. I never saw the not TV version. I never saw the theater version.
Yeah.
First thing, yeah. I'm just like, yeah. And then I remember, and Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Maybe our parents were not paying attention to what Ghostbusters was, because I remember their dad and I getting the movie Ghostbusters and like getting all excited and telling the kids, yeah, you're gonna like watch, you know, a movie we saw when we were kids. It is like so great. And like we turned it off and we're like, did our parents not see some of these things in here? Were they like, how did
little nuances. You forget that they're there, and
you forget you're there, but you know, as a kid, you're probably not paying attention or not knowing what it is.
I'll give you a real wake-up call for that. I was just talking about that the other day. We forget how raw Saturday Night Fever is. Have you ever looked back at Saturday Night Fever? We all think it's this sort of disco film, dancing film. There's some stuff in that movie. I mean, it's super adult. And I think people forget that. They kind of put it with like Grease and line dancing and musical and maybe a little nuance, but no, there's some heavy stuff. You're watching it like I rewatched it like my jaw dropped. I forgot what was in there. I'm like,
I saw that movie as an adult.
Yeah.
Because again, Mom would not let me watch that.
Oh, it's shocking now. It's still shocking now.
It's been a few years, but yeah, I remember thinking, wow. Okay.
Yeah, the film that has Staying Alive and You Should Be Dancing, that's really, yeah. It's bad. It's some bad stuff.
We're gonna have to wrap it up here soon, but I have a question.
Okay.
For you.
Yes.
Is that talking about 80s movies? I'm just curious.
That's my jam.
I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, and then you're going to probably make somebody really happy.
How dare you think I'm predictable? But go ahead, you're probably right.
the movie Top Gun, yay or nay?
Okay, can I shock you right now? Never seen it.
I had never seen it until like Grease. A few months ago. No. I had never seen it because you know, it was one of those movies that you like. I didn't watch it in the 80s. I was too young. And then as you get older, there's more movies. And then it's like, do I really, you know, if I had a choice between watching Top Gun and something, you know, current, and then it just became like, so many decades had passed.
Yeah.
So
it was too late. You missed the bus. It's gone. Yeah.
Right. So, and I remember a few years ago telling someone I'd never seen Top Gun, and they were like, what? That's like the best movie.
That's what I get. Yeah.
Granted, so I had this thing, I'm like, oh, this is like the best movie, whatever. So I just watched it like a few months ago when we did a show on, because Johnny Sanchez loves the movie.
Okay. Sorry, Johnny.
I know. He quotes it. It's like a thing. It's like whatever. So I watched it a few months ago, and stupidest movie ever. So dumb.
I've seen clips. It's just not getting me. It's not grabbing me at all.
But granted, I guess, you know, and then, you know, to be fair, let's just be fair, because I am fair. People don't think I am.
Me too. And I'm non-judgmental.
I'm sure at the time it was, you know, the era, but there was some parts of the movie just didn't make sense to me. Like it just like I'm all about, it has to be a little realistic. It's just like, well, no. But I hear that they're making a sequel to this movie.
Oh, I heard about that, like a reboot or whatever, or
I think they need to like rewrite it.
So basically you're not
call it Mediocre Gun or something. I don't know. It's horrible acting. But anyway, yeah. But see, a lot of those movies that would, you know, that were classics, and that if you didn't see it, if you were too young to watch it, it just is kind of like to go, you miss like an essence of
Your
it, because you know that was a movie from when he was a kid, and him and his friends shared, you know, they quoted, and but that's part of his childhood. We have those connections to movies, right? And so I think if you miss that part, it's not going to have the same appeal.
You're missing
Granted,
the magic
also
that the
too-
other person feels. Yeah.
Right. Granted, too, I also like to just make fun of him any chance I get, and that's just what it is.
As do I when I know people who watch films that I'm like, oh, how could you like that film?
Now, Jennifer, I guess I'm going to have to do a reaction video to the best little whorehouse in Texas, because
There you
Jennifer
go.
says she is honestly more disturbed that you've never watched that movie. She's like, seriously. So okay, so I need to do a reaction video to Grease and the best little house whorehouse in Texas.
The best little house on the prairie.
Yeah.
You got a lot of work to do, darling.
I've got a lot of, well, you know, what else am I doing?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I
feel
mean,
you.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's quarantine time.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm living in a padded room right now, quite honestly.
An officer and a gentleman.
Yeah, I saw that when actually, as much as adult stuff was in there,
That's
I
a
saw
good
that as
movie.
a kid and I loved it. Yeah, I did. It made an impact. It really did. Yeah,
That-
pretty shockingly so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that when it came out as a kid. 10 years old or something.
So we got a few people that agree with our sentiment that Top Gun was cheesy, because it was. Officer and Gentleman, I love that movie. How about Urban Cowboy?
Urban Cowboy, I saw again when it came out on TV on cable, and much as I love Travolta, it didn't hit me. It didn't get me. It didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
it
I
didn't
think
get me.
Urban Cowboy is more for the females.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean,
it could be. Yeah,
I've never heard a guy ever say, yes, Urban Cowboy was
Urban
a
Cowboy.
fantastic movie. I learned so much from it. No, I mean, Urban Cowboy is definitely a chick flick.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I tried. I gave it a day in court,
Yeah,
and it was okay. I mean, I didn't, I just wasn't over the moon. I like that The Devil Went Down to Georgia was in it, which is cool. But
yeah, I've never. I like Urban Cowboy. Urban Cowboy is a movie that I can watch over and over again. There's parts of it that I fast forward. Like I don't really get to the dark. There's some dark scenes in there. I don't like that. I like it when John Travolta and Deborah Winger come together and they're happy and just that's the best part of the movie. And
that's the essence of the chick flicky content.
It's a horrible movie. I mean, it really is not. I mean, it really is a bad movie, but it's so like it's like you just can't stop watching. It reminds me, for me, there's a lot of some of just the fashion and just like the trailer and like it just reminds me of certain parts of my town. And
that's another thing. You can have attachments to it and things like that. And by the way, another one that people always cringe to when I say it, but you ever see Rhinestone with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone? No, just Ryan. It's called Rhinestone.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone, where she's a country singer in this club, and she makes a bet with the club owner that she can turn anybody into like a country singer, and he's a cab driver, a rough and tough cab driver, and she's the one that she has to do the bet with. It is hysterical. There's some funny
that's
songs.
Another one.
Watch Rhinestone. I'm telling you, if you don't like Rhinestone, I would be super surprised. It's so entertaining.
It's Rhinestone, the Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton movie, the
Best Little Whorehouse.
Texas, and Grease.
Grease.
And Grease. Okay, so I have 3 movies to watch,
maybe
I'll do reaction videos to that.
And then one night, I just want to have a whole show on Grease too. I just want to. I want to literally talk bullet points.
I will do that episode with you, because Grease 2, I have all of the songs memorized. I have a few of all of Michelle Pfeiffer's lines memorized.
Same. Even, there's cheesiness in it, and I even embrace the cheesiness. I think it's great.
That was fun. And I can't say if it's better than Grease 1 because I haven't seen it, but
right, exactly.
I mean,
like I said, 2 separate movies, completely 2 separate movies. Just think of Grease 2 as, it's just called a 50s musical, whatever.
Oh my gosh. It looks like Johnny and Wayne are bonding over Top Gun in the comments.
Sorry that passed us by. We are definitely in the.
I know we were busy being cool and having a life, having real conversations. We didn't have to mimic movies, even though we just talked about like we know all the the lines from Grease too. So I don't know if that makes us any cooler than them.
Making T-bird jackets with white crayons.
We're going to bowl tonight. Oh, that's right. We're going to bowl tonight. That was such a great song.
Oh, tonight.
Yes. Greg.
But also
Greg
the T-bird song, the actual T-bird. So we go and proudly and walk, talking like a T-bird. That whole musical number is fantastic.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's chock full of good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Steve, this was really awesome. I hate to cut it off. I cannot believe I have never gone this long on a live. So yeah,
I'm glad.
But before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to let our viewers where can they find you? Where can they see you perform? Can they find your music? See, it's time for me to go. I'm getting a little.
19 Park Road. No. I've got a few. There's a few videos on YouTube. I can link them in the jungle room. Then there's got a few on there, and also I play. If anybody's local to New England that's watching, or certainly in Massachusetts, I play every Friday and Saturday at a place called the Daniel Webster Inn Tavern, and that's every Friday and Saturday year round, 7 to 10, and all the covers from 60s to current, like just all your jams played live by yours truly, and it's a good time to have for all. So if you're in the area, come on down. He said, promoting himself.
We just got to give a shout out really quick to Ghosty, who says that he's never seen. Seen Top Gun, and hopefully Kelsey hasn't left yet. I should have said hi to Kelsey. She was here tonight. Neil's telling us to keep going, but Neil, we both have COVID, and so we're kind of like,
we're on our last voice.
Yeah, I can feel my voice starting to go downhill. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I haven't been doing a lot of talking this week, and
I'm getting that sort of 80-year-old Paul McCartney voice. That way he talks like that, and he's always talking like I'm about that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you have any do you have any music that people can buy? Can they download any of your stuff?
I stopped doing originals quite a while ago. So I basically just play live and just have some stuff on YouTube and things like that. Nothing really to tout, as it were. Just kind of doing the casual cover thing now these days. So keeping it down in the roots.
Yeah.
So everything that you want to hear of me is completely free.
All right. Wow.
Which is a good thing. But I'll chuck a couple on or to your room there or whatever, and people can have a couple of Elvis covers on there and things like that. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, we definitely need to hear it. Well, you know what? The door is always open here in the jungle room. I would like to have you back on to have more of these discussions. I don't think we would ever run out of things to talk about, obviously.
I don't think so. I mean, we can yak like a couple of old ladies, really.
Yeah, definitely. And our viewers seem to really enjoy this tonight. If you guys, viewers. Yes, thank you so much. You guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you guys, make sure to share this video, share it, let everyone know. I am going to try to be live every Friday night at 7 o'clock Central. And I thank you guys all for being here tonight. This was a lot of fun. Steve, again, thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been fantastic. I had a great time.
And also, Steve, make sure you put any links down below in the description so people can find you.
I will do this thing. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jaime. It's been a pleasure. And thank you guys for listening and hanging out. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Cheers.